Okay, part 2 of the Riddick movies, and now we move on to Chronicles of Riddick, which is actually the first Riddick movie I saw, like I'm sure with many other people. And, I have a little bit of a love-hate relationship with this movie that, like, changes on a dime, because on the one hand, I do like how they're, trying to show us more of this Riddick universe, even though they didn't have to, but it's nice to, hear about hardships that Riddick has to go through, but it lets you know that there is worse than Riddick, and all the kind of discussion themes that you could put on here, what it really means to be human, or other little moments that they put in there with like the necromongers, the prisoners, and just other groups of people. It's real interesting to think about this stuff, even though this isn't really the type of movie that would be used as like a discussion in a film class, but there is stuff to this movie. Because, like, many people will have the relationship with this movie the way I had to The Invisible, where they were able to identify with a lot of these characters, get great reactions with it, and it just hits them, close to home. That's what happened to a lot of people who saw the movie Powder, with Jeff Goldblum, Lance Heinrichsen, I can't pronounce that guy's name, he's the old sheriff, right. But there is stuff to this movie, but at the same time, it does have a little bit of a disjointed feel in relation to the other movies, and the fact that this movie hasn't really gotten a proper sequel, air quotes. It feels, just a lot of things are left hanging, and it doesn't really help out. So now, to be fair, okay, there was the actual sequel to this movie, and Vin Diesel and the other people are mentioning that they're going to try and finish what they originally wanted to with this movie now. So I think eventually these concerns, if we look at it, with the big picture, will eventually be washed away. But looking at just this piece, yeah, it's a little bit tricky to, figure out, because, this movie does have, not necessarily episodic, but more like varying tones, because originally on New Mecca, they're trying to set up all of these character issues, and then we go to Crematoria, where Riddick's dealing with his own problems, and there's a lot at stake, but then all of a sudden the Necromongers come back, even though we shouldn't have really forgotten about them, and then the issues with them are kind of disrupted, but one would argue that the Necromongers are gone long enough that it's not the best bit that they're brought back, and that also character transitions just happen a little too easy, because the guards at Crematoria, they get a little bit concerned at first that Tombs could have led, the Necromongers right to them, but they don't really do a good job of explaining their thought process. I mean, like, we're not supposed to care for them, but that would have helped, give us a little bit more apprehension, for what's happening with Riddick, because, spoiler alert for Game of Thrones, I've seen the first season of the show, and all throughout that season, even though all these royal families, are constantly battling each other, you do get the feeling that there is an ominous threat on the other side of the wall and across the sea, which none of them really know about until halfway through the series. Well, there is a couple lines of dialogue explaining that they're going to send a few assassins to try and kill what's her face, Khaleesi, but then it's like put on the back burner. But I never truly forgot about that, because I knew that, oh boy, they think that they've had enough with each other. No, wait to see yet. But I didn't get that here. That was depressing. Yeah. And then, as I mentioned with Dark Fury, it doesn't tie well into that. But if you take out Dark Fury, actually, I think the movie looks better, to be honest, yeah. And one thing that really jives with me is that there's like all kinds of differences in moments, you know, between the theatrical cut and the extended cut, because in the theatrical cut, Toombs' second in command, the woman, she has a couple of scenes, you know, where the rest of Toombs' crew are getting killed by the prison guards that illustrate that actually she might have more importance, but that's left out of the movie. Now, to be fair, okay, the developments with her character are really just meant to give Riddick, you know, some more one-liners, but that would help the movie's flow make a little bit more sense, even though it doesn't really make too much sense why Riddick leaves her alive after all that time when she's probably going to die, even though it stands to reason that there is a second ship there somewhere, so it is possible for her to get off, but yeah. And then also, the ending. I seem to recall that at the end of one cut of the movie, which I think was theatrical, because this is the first ending that I saw, the Necromonger's ship had like this energy ball that like blasted out, you know, while they were on New Mecca. But in the unrated version, nothing is mentioned about that. Riddick just mentions, you keep what you kill. Well, isn't the energy ball the Necromonger's weapons to wipe out the planet? So Riddick goes through all that trouble, you know, to combat the Necromongers, along with mentioning that he's going to keep Iman's family safe earlier, but because I could have sworn I remember the Lord Marshal talking that he's going to, you know, destroy the planet, and also that elemental character. Now, I get that the main purpose of her character is to foreshadow the connection between Riddick and the Lord Marshal, and inform Riddick, even though there's a good chance he suspected something like this, that he is not a normal human. He's a supposedly extinct race. But I don't know, just her character just was kind of jarring, if you ask me. I don't know. Maybe I wasn't getting the right feels? I really don't know. And I think there was one other difference that I wanted to mention, because like the Elemental, it's the same for all these movies. Oh yeah, the Wrath of the Furian bit, which they have in this movie. Well, it does give a little bit more of an illustration as to, you know, why the Purifier, you know, helped Riddick out, because even though he did see the original discussion where it was revealed that Riddick was a Furian, it would explain why he decided to help him out, because with that Wrath trick, he's able to, you know, get the desire to break away from his Necromonger bondings and tell Riddick, you know, go after him, avenge our race. But I don't know, just again, given how they don't touch upon this kind of stuff in later installments, it feels kind of odd. Whereas, you know, in the theatrical cut, I think it stands to reason that Riddick, after killing almost everyone else, you know, is beat by Vaku or one of the other guys. I don't remember how the fight ended in the theatrical cut, because that cut, you know, doesn't explain what happens to everyone very well, because it was obviously cut down, yeah. Yeah. So I get the idea that I'm mainly rambling here, but as I said, I've got a love-hate relationship with this movie. My thoughts are, you know, kind of all over the place. Now, do I hate this movie? No. I actually do like it. But it's just unfortunate that, you know, that I end up in this position. Yeah. But many years down the line, I might be able to look back on it and say it definitely served its purpose. Because the thing is, like with the reality TV series No More, almost everyone that watches this movie actually ends up becoming a very loyal fan, minus the people, you know, that turn it off, like, almost instantly, because it's not really their thing, you know, right? So, I think that's going to sum it up because I've talked about this for 10 minutes. So, as for rating this, I'm honestly not going to rate it. Way too conflicted, because, as I said, my thoughts on it keep changing on a dime, but it's, you know, nice, but got issues with it, yeah. Well, looks like I'm making it part 3.